HOA Karen smashed my dad's truck window, got 5 months in jail. The air smelled of gasoline and regret that evening. The kind of regret that sticks to your skin like damp heat. I was 17, sprawled on the couch, scrolling through my phone when Dad burst through the front door, his face redder than the rust on his old Ford pickup. "That woman's lost her damn mind," he roared, and I knew exactly who he meant. Karen, the HOA's self-appointed queen, had struck again. Dad's truck wasn't just a vehicle, it was his lifeline. A beat-up '98 Ford F-150, it had hauled his tools to every construction job for 2 decades, carried us to fishing trips when I was a kid, and survived a tornado that tore through our old neighborhood. It wasn't pretty, with its chipped green paint and a bumper held together by duct tape, but it was Dad's pride. We lived in a quiet suburban cul-de-sac, the kind where everyone's lawn was manicured to HOA standards except ours. Dad didn't have time for their rules about grass height or mailbox colors. He worked 12-hour days, and I was juggling school and a part-time job at the diner. Our yard was a little wild, sure, but it wasn't a junkyard. Karen, though, acted like we were running a landfill. She'd been after us for months. It started with passive-aggressive notes taped to our door. "Please trim your hedges to regulation height." Then came the fines: $50 for an unsightly mailbox, $100 for weeds. Dad ignored them, tossing the letters into a drawer with a grunt. "Bunch of busybodies," he'd mutter. But Karen wasn't just a busybody. She was a one-woman crusade. She'd stride through the neighborhood in her pristine white sneakers, clipboard in hand, her blonde bob swinging like a guillotine. Everyone knew her. Nobody liked her. That evening, Dad told me what happened. He'd parked his truck in the community lot near the clubhouse, where he was fixing a neighbor's porch. It was a temporary spot, legal under HOA rules. But Karen didn't care. She'd stormed over, screaming that his eyesore truck was lowering property values. Dad, sweaty and covered in sawdust, tried to explain he'd move it after the job. She wouldn't hear it. "You're a disgrace to this community," she'd shrieked, loud enough for half the block to hear. Then she vanished, and Dad thought that was the end of it, until he heard the crash. I followed him outside, heart pounding, as he recounted the scene. The community lot was a 5-minute walk, and by the time we got there, a small crowd had gathered. The driver's side window of Dad's truck was a spiderweb of cracks, glass fragments scattered across the seat. A brick lay in the footwell, its edges chipped from impact. Karen stood nearby, arms crossed, smirking like she'd just won a war. "Maybe now you'll follow the rules," she said, her voice dripping with venom. I wanted to scream. Dad's hands shook as he stared at the damage. Not from fear, but from the kind of anger that burns slow and deep. The crowd murmured, some shocked, others whispering about Karen's reign of terror. Mr. Jenkins, the retired cop who lived 2 streets over, stepped forward, his phone already out, calling the police. "You crossed a line." "Karen," he said, his voice low but firm. She scoffed, rolling her eyes. "It's just a truck. He'll get over it." The next few days were a blur of tension. Dad filed a police report, and the HOA board, usually Karen's loyal minions, started to crack under pressure from neighbors who'd had enough of her antics. I overheard Mom talking to Mrs. Alvarez, our next-door neighbor, about how Karen had once reported her for leaving a tricycle in the driveway overnight. "She's unhinged," Mrs. Alvarez whispered, and I couldn't disagree. But what nobody expected was the twist that came next. At school, I was venting to my friend Mia about the whole mess when she froze, her eyes wide. "Wait, my cousin works at the community center. He said he saw something weird that night." She pulled out her phone and called him. Turns out, her cousin, Javier, had been closing up the clubhouse when he saw Karen pacing the lot, muttering to herself. He didn't think much of it until he heard the smash and peeked out to see her hurling the brick. Javier had recorded it on his phone, not the whole thing, but enough to catch Karen mid-act, her face unmistakable in the grainy footage. "I didn't want to get involved," he told Mia, but that was messed up. Mia showed me the video, and my stomach churned. There was Karen, in her signature pink cardigan, winding up like a pitcher and launching the brick through Dad's window. The footage was shaky, but it was damning. I showed it to Dad that night, and his jaw tightened. "She's done," he said, his voice eerily calm. We sent the video to the police, and suddenly, Karen's smug confidence started to crumble. The neighborhood buzzed with gossip. Karen tried to spin it, claiming she'd been provoked and that Dad's truck was a public nuisance. She even had the nerve to show up at our house, banging on the door and demanding we drop the charges. "You're ruining my life over a stupid window," she screamed, her face blotchy with rage. Mom, who'd been silent through most of this, stepped onto the porch and stared her down. "You ruined your own life." "Karen," she said, slamming the door. I'd never been prouder of Mom. The confrontation in the parking lot came a week later, and it was like something out of a movie. The police had called a meeting at the community center to address the incident, and half the neighborhood showed up. Karen strutted in, still acting like she owned the place. But the mood was different. People who'd once cowered under her clipboard now glared. Dad stood up, holding a folder of evidence repair estimates, HOA fines, and a USB drive with Javier's video. "This isn't about a truck," he said, his voice steady but shaking with emotion. "It's about someone thinking they can bully whoever they want." Karen interrupted, shouting that Dad was a liar, that the video was fake. But then Javier stood up, all 6'2" of him, and played the footage on the community center's projector. The room went silent as Karen's image filled the screen. The brick flying, the glass shattering. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. Karen's face drained of color, and for the first time, she had nothing to say. The police officer moderating the meeting stepped forward. "Ma'am, you're under arrest for vandalism and destruction of property." As they cuffed her, Karen started sobbing, not out of remorse but because her perfect little world was collapsing. The crowd didn't cheer, they just watched, stone-faced, as she was led away. I caught Mrs. Alvarez's eye, and she gave me a small nod, like justice had finally arrived. The fallout was swift. Karen's trial was short. The video, combined with witness statements from Mr. Jenkins and others, left no room for doubt. She was sentenced to 5 months in county jail, a light sentence. Some said, but enough to send a message. The HOA board, humiliated by the scandal, revoked her position and issued a public apology to Dad. They even waived all our outstanding fines, though Dad didn't care about that. He just wanted his truck fixed. The repair shop quoted $800 for the window and some bodywork, but the neighborhood rallied. Mr. Jenkins started a collection, and within days we had enough to cover it. Dad was floored, tearing up as he thanked everyone. "Didn't expect this," he said, his voice gruff. I think it hit him harder than the brick. Karen's house went quiet after that. Her husband, who'd always stayed out of her crusades, put it up for sale a month later. I heard he moved to another state, probably to escape the whispers. As for Karen, word got around that jail wasn't kind to her. 5 months isn't long, but it's enough to make you think about who you are. I doubt she did much thinking, though. Looking back, I wonder what made Karen snap. Was it power insecurity or just the thrill of control? Dad's truck is back on the road now, still battered but running strong, just like him. Our yard's still a little wild, and I'm okay with that. It's home. What do you think? Did Karen get what she deserved? Or was 5 months too harsh? Share your thoughts. I'm curious.